Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something that, well, it really underpins pretty much everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're trying to nail a presentation or just have a better chat with a friend. Self-awareness.
Yeah, sounds simple, right?
Yeah,
But actually digging into who we are, how we show up, it's a constant learning curve.
it really is. And that's why we're looking at two pretty powerful tools today.
Right. We're going to explore the Johari window and the Dias-C model. Think of them as like frameworks, ways to get some maybe surprising clarity about yourself and how you interact.
Exactly. And we've got a cool mix of sources. There's a YouTube plan that kind of shows how you can visualize these models.
Which is helpful, seeing things laid out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we've also got some really interesting bits from self-awareness, behavior, and decision-making insights. It actually references another book, quite a title, Surrounded by Psychopaths, basically.
Ah, yes, Thomas Erickson.
Right. And these excerpts look at how these models connect to, well, understanding ourselves and our relationships.
So our goal today really is pretty simple but important. We want to give you a clear picture of both the Johari window and DISC.
And maybe more than that, show how you can actually use these ideas for self-discovery, better connections.
Exactly. Practical application. So where should we kick off? The Johari window, maybe?
Okay, yeah, let's start there. The Johari window. So it's not about actual windows.
No, not home improvement.
Right. It's a model showing our awareness, what we know about ourselves, and crucially, what others see in us. Visualized as like a four-paned window.
Precisely. Picture that window, 4 squares. The first one, that's the arena, or the open self. The source used the term Chiniyama. Okay. This is the public space. Everything about you that both you and others know, your visible actions, things you share openly, opinions you voice, it's all out there.
Okay, so like for me, maybe my tendency to tell bad jokes or my love for old movies, my friends know that, I know that. That's arena stuff.
Spot on. That's exactly it. Now, the second pane, the blind spot.
Blind spot.
Yeah, blind spot. This is where it gets potentially really interesting, maybe a bit eye-opening.
I'm guessing this is stuff I don't know.
Exactly. It's what others can see about you, but you're unaware of it. Could be, unconscious habits, the way your face kind of scrunches up when you concentrate.
Or maybe how my directness comes across sometime.
Perfect example. How your actions or communication style are perceived by others, even if that's not your intention.
The blind spot.
Where?
Sounds like where you might get some feedback you weren't expecting, maybe some awkward moments.
Could be. Like you said, maybe you think you're being assertive, but someone else reads it as aggressive. You wouldn't know unless they or someone points it out.
Right.
And that's the key thing here. Understanding your blind spot isn't really about finding flaws. It's more about seeing where your intent and your actual impact might not line up.
Which leads to more genuine interactions, I guess.
Exactly. The source material really pushes us to think about how knowing our open self, and especially understanding this blind spot, changes how we interact. If you get a handle on how others see you, in ways you don't see yourself, you can understand their reactions better.
And maybe adjust your approach if you want to. Makes sense. Okay, pane number 3.
That's the facade, or the hidden self. Kalo. This is kind of the flip side of the blind spot.
Okay, so if the blind spot is what others know, but I don't.
Then the facade is what you know about yourself, but you choose not to show others. Private feelings, past stuff you haven't shared, maybe insecurities, anything you keep under wraps.
Right. Everyone's got a facade, surely. Like maybe you're feeling nervous about a presentation, but you put on a confident front for your colleagues. That's facade.
Precisely. And the source asks, when is revealing this hidden self challenging?
Yeah, that seems obvious almost. It often comes down to trust, right? Feeling safe enough. Fear of being judged, maybe.
Absolutely. Huge barriers. Deciding what to share and when and with whom. That's a big part of managing relationships and building real connection.
Okay, so open blind spot facade. What's the last quadrant?
The fourth one is the unknown. This one's fascinating because it's stuff about you that's unknown to both you and everybody else.
Unknown to everyone. Like what?
Could be potential you haven't tapped into yet, talents you didn't know you had, or unconscious motives driving your behavior, deep fears you haven't faced.
Wow, the unknown. That feels like the real frontier of personal growth then. The source asks how we reduce this area. How do you find out what you don't know you don't know? Seems tricky.
It's a great question, and it's not simple, but things like, introspection, maybe journaling, trying new things definitely helps pushing your comfort zone.
Right. New experiences could reveal hidden talents or fears.
Yeah, exactly. And actively seeking feedback is huge too. As you learn more about yourself, moving things into your open or hidden areas, and as others share their perspectives, shrinking that blind spot, the unknown, naturally gets smaller over time.
Okay, that paints a really clear picture of the Johari window, 4 quadrants of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So let's shift gears. The DISC model. Sounds like a different kind of beast altogether.
It is, yeah. A different lens. DISC is a behavioral assessment system. It identifies 4 main behavioral styles, again, often shown as quadrants.
Okay. 4 styles. What are they?
Well, first up, we have dominance. Jia Chui's people with a dominant style. They tend to be really focused on getting results.
How so?
They're often direct, decisive, assertive. They like to take charge.
Okay, I can picture that. Goal-oriented. Maybe a natural leader type, not afraid of tough calls.
Exactly. Then there's influence, Jia Chui. This style is much more about relationships, enthusiasm, persuasion.
The people.
You could say that, yeah. Often outgoing, optimistic, they thrive on connecting with others. Great at getting people excited. And knowing that about someone, it changes how you might talk to them. Less just facts, more shared vision, excitement.
Makes sense. Engage their enthusiasm.
Mm.
Okay, dominance, influence. What's next?
Next is steadiness. The source also mentions submissiveness here. Set in. This style is about cooperation, patience, consistency.
So more low-key, maybe.
Often, yeah. Very supportive team players. They value stability, harmony. They're the reliable ones, often bringing calm. And again, if you know someone prefers steadiness, you wouldn't push for rapid change necessarily. You'd emphasize collaboration, reassurance.
Right, build buy-in that way.
Okay, and the last one.
Last one is conscientiousness, sometimes called compliance. This style is all about quality, accuracy, following the rules, procedures.
The detail-oriented folks, the planners.
Exactly. Analytical, precise, making sure things are done right.
Got it. DISC. Dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientiousness. That's them. And the source connects these to assertiveness versus introversion and task versus people focus.
Oh, how so?
Well, dominance and conscientiousness tend to be more task-focused, right? Results and accuracy. While influence and steadiness are generally more people-focused relationships, collaboration.
Okay, that makes sense. And assertiveness.
Dominance and influence are usually more assertive, more direct. Steadiness and conscientiousness tend to be a bit more reserved, maybe more thoughtful in their approach.
Okay, that adds another layer. Helps map them out. And again, the source pushes for reflection here. Like, how do we spot our own dominant style?
Yeah, and it might change, right, depending on the situation.
Exactly. I might be more dominant trying to fix a crisis, but maybe more influence when brainstorming ideas.
That's a key point. Most of us aren't just one style. We usually have a primary one, maybe a secondary, but we adapt. Knowing your go-to style, though, really valuable for self-awareness.
And the source also asks about understanding other people's styles for better communication.
Oh, absolutely huge. If you know someone's high D, dominance, you probably get straight to the point. Focus on results.
Right. And if they're high I, influence.
Maybe build some rapport first. Talk about the bigger picture, the impact. Connect on that level.
Yeah, tailoring your approach seems like it could avoid a lot of frustration.
Definitely. Less misunderstanding, better teamwork. It also touches on when a certain style might be more effective.
Like a crisis example for dominance.
Exactly. Or maybe for a long, detailed project, that conscientiousness, that focus on accuracy becomes really crucial.
Okay. So we have these 2 models, Johari window about awareness pains, DISC about behavioral styles. How do they work together? They seem related but different.
That's a great way to put it. They offer different lenses, but they can really complement each other.
How so?
Well, for instance, understanding your main DISC style, that might shed light on parts of your Johari window. Maybe your high C conscientiousness explains why certain things stay in your hidden self, like being hesitant to share work you feel isn't perfect yet. Okay. The DISC style gives a why behind some of the Johari pains.
Exactly. Or maybe you get some feedback that lands in your blind spot. Someone says you seem overly critical sometimes. Knowing you have a high D or C score on DISC could give you a framework to understand why you might be perceived that way, even if it's not your intention.
Gotcha. So Johari shows the what's known and unknown. DISC offers clues about the why, the underlying behavioral tendencies contributing to that.
Precisely. And like that YouTube plan suggested, both are super practical tools for communication, for relationships.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you get a better handle on your own Johari-Diasi mix and you start recognizing tendencies in others.
You could just navigate things with more, well, empathy and skill. The visual aspect helps too, which the YouTube plan noted. Those 4 quadrants in both models, they just lend themselves to diagrams, infographics. It makes it easier to grasp.
Definitely. Now, there was another really interesting point in the self-awareness, behavior, and decision-making insights piece. It talked about what drives our choices.
Ah, yes, the emotional component. Yeah, suggesting that a huge chunk, like 80% of our decisions are actually based on emotional conviction. And only maybe 20% on pure logic. That sounds pretty high.
It does sound high when you first hear it, but then you stop and think about your own decisions.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Well, think about a big purchase you were really excited about. Was it purely logical? Or did feel play a big part? Or choosing who to work with? Was it just qualifications? Or did you factor in who you felt you'd collaborate well with?
Yeah. Okay. I recently booked a trip, and honestly, it was mostly the pictures, the feeling I got looking at them. Excitement, escape, even though it cost a bit more than maybe other logical options.
There you go.
So the source asks if we find this surprising. And yeah, it's eye-opening, but also kind of resonates when I'm honest. It also asks how we become more aware of these emotional drivers.
That's key for self-awareness, isn't it? Maybe starting to just notice your gut reactions when you feel strongly pulled towards something or away from it, even without a clear why.
Pay attention to the gut feeling.
Yeah. And maybe reflect on past decisions. Ask yourself, okay, what was I really hoping for here? Or what feeling was pushing me? It helps uncover those hidden drivers.
And what about the pros and cons? Relying too much on emotion versus logic? Seems like balance is the goal.
Absolutely. Pure logic might lead to technically correct decisions that leave you feeling empty or, misaligned with your values.
Right.
But pure emotion can lead to impulsive choices, stuff you regret later. The sweet spot is often being aware of both, the feelings and the facts, trying to integrate them.
And how does this whole 80-20 emotion logic thing tie back into Johari and DISC?
It's all woven together. Your emotional patterns, they might be part of your hidden self in Johari or influenced by your DISC style, give huge clues about why you react and choose the way you do.
So someone high in influence might be more swayed by emotional connection and decisions.
Potentially, yeah. While someone high in conscientiousness might try for pure logic, but still have underlying emotional preferences driving things. Recognizing those personal patterns, that's a big boost to self-awareness around decision-making.
Wow. Okay, this has been a really useful deep dive. So
Yeah.
just to pull it together quickly, we look at the Johari window, that framework for what's known and unknown about us, open self, blind spot, hidden self, unknown.
Right. Understanding ourselves in relation to others. And then we unpack the DISC model, those 4 behavioral styles: dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance or conscientiousness, highlighting our typical ways of acting and interacting.
And we've seen how both models offer really valuable ways to understand ourselves better and how we connect with others. Plus, that kicker about emotions driving most of our decisions.
Yeah, the importance of tuning into those emotional undercurrents.
Absolutely. Which brings us to maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering that insight that maybe 80% of our decisions are emotionally driven, how might NABE consciously, using what we learned today from the Johari window in DISC, understanding how we're seen, understanding our own natural tendencies, how might that actually help us make more self-aware choices?
And maybe more effective choices, not just at work, but in our personal lives too, in relationships.
Exactly. How can that awareness help us navigate that emotional pull more consciously? Definitely something to chew on.
It is indeed.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into self-awareness. Until next time.